Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams, sportswear, click on the link. And while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. All right, folks, I had to remove them real quick because I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to introduce somebody that I really, really enjoy watching his podcast. He has great content. Looks like they have a lot of fun on their show. And the host of this show is Mark Madea. And I hope I'm saying it right. He's the barber on the Original Sports Podcast with a barbershop theme. So let's bring him in. I hope I pronounced it right, Mark.
It's okay, Mac. It's Meriday, but it's been said a million different ways, so I'm good with it.
All right, Meriday. All right. Okay, Mark. Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your time with us. I know you got a show coming up. So I want to get right to it. I first want to start, Mark, with your as you were growing up. First of all, where are you originally from, Mark?
I'm actually originally from outside of Pittsburgh, a small steel mill town called Vandergrift. Right. At one point, it had 16,000 people in it. It was the first steel mill town that was made specifically for that. It was kind of neat to grow up there. It was a really, really interesting experience.
Okay, and when you were growing up as a kid, what was your? I mean, I imagine it was the Steelers, but did you have any other teams that you watched and enjoyed playing?
You know what? Basically, it was all Pittsburgh all the time, but a couple of inside secrets about me. When I was a kid, I had a Raiders coat. You know, the old ones that look like your Letterman's jacket. I had a Raiders jacket because I just loved their nastiness. I really did. That was one of my favorite teams. I was also a big Oakland A's and Kansas City Royals fan for baseball. Just loved their style of baseball. I was a big Freddie Patek guy. Do you remember Freddie Patek, little second baseman? Or was he shortstop?
Shortstop. I think it was the shortstop.
Just loved those guys too. I even watched some NBA. Never really had a team in Pittsburgh. So it was hard to wrap my head around one specific team. Was a big Dr. J guy. And then as I got older, it was Magic Johnson. So I've always gravitated to the Lakers, especially when they had like my all-time favorite player, the Shaq there. I would say, though, to be quite honest with you, even though football's number one, 1A would be ice hockey. I love me some ice hockey.
The Penguins, one of the original, if I'm not mistaken, hockey teams in the league, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No. They came in 67. In 67. Yeah. But with 5 cups since their indoctrination, they've been a pretty successful organization. But that really didn't start happening until Mario Lemieux came on board, and
Yeah.
it had been an amazing run once they got him going.
Yeah, hockey is an unbelievable sport. I kind of follow it. Of course, I'm a New York fan, so I'm a big Ranger fan. I'm New York all the way. My dad's from New York, from
Okay.
Brooklyn. So all the teams, the Yankees, Giants, the Rangers, the Knicks, those are my teams. I kind of like the Jets a little bit. My grandfather, he liked them, so I kind of followed them a little bit. And Boston Celtics were big up here for a while when they had Larry Bird. Of course, that's what we saw on the team all the time, the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. So I used to like to watch the Celtics play too.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So are the sports better today than when you grew up, Mark?
You want my honest opinion, Mac? No.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of free agency. I don't like how the money's spent. I'm on a podcast with it's called the South Florida Tribune every Monday night. 108 Stitches baseball podcast. Love talking sports with those guys. We talk all baseball, and we got into it last night. We were talking about the two teams playing and how there should be so much excitement around the Yankees and Dodgers. Two of the franchises that have made the game for years. And I said, fellas, I just have a hard time getting excited about this because you've got two franchises right there spending over $300 million to pay their players. And I was born and raised a Pittsburgh Pirate fan. Now, you want to talk about a team that's been around since the beginning? That's the Pittsburgh Pirates, of course. And they have been abysmal for well over 30 years. And the owner doesn't want to spend any money. They pay their roster 1/3 the amount of what the Yankees and the Dodgers pay. And it's hard to get behind it. In fact, I laughed and I said, oh, baseball's still going on? I said, it ended in July in Pittsburgh, but yeah. I have a hard time with it. I don't mind free agency with the sports, though. I don't mind. I don't love it, but I don't mind it with the sports, though, that have a cap. If there's a cap there, then everybody's got an equal playing field. Okay, yeah, there's some manipulating here and there, but everybody's got an equal playing field, and I think that's okay. But, man, I'll tell you, it's just not the same. There's, if you think about it, Mac, back in the day, if you were a fan of a particular player, that player most likely played for your team the entire time he had his professional career. Now you go out and buy a jersey of somebody, there's not a good chance he's going to be around after 4 or 5 years. So, for me, it's hard to be involved with what's in those sports today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to a point. Of course, we sound like a couple old men, get off my lawn, standing there with a rake. But I agree with you too. I say I agree with 95% of what you're saying. I think if you're going to spend at the end of the year to give you a push over the top, okay. But having a core of players to me means, if you look back at the Pittsburgh Pirates, right? You have Willie Stargell, you have you had a team. In fact, it was, I think, the first all-black team in the major leagues at one time when you had Stargell. I think it was Bonds, if I'm not mistaken. He might have came later. The catcher Campanella, right? He was a catcher of your team. Am I right saying that too?
Campanella did not play for the Pirates.
Okay, all right. So, but I know that you guys at one time had the first all-black team, and you had some good years there with those guys. I mean, you did go to World Series and stuff. So and with the Yankees, I'm kind of disappointed, and I'm kind of glad in a way that they're. I don't want to say I'm glad they're not competitive, Mark. I had a feeling they wouldn't be. And the Yankees had an edge to me over the Dodgers, a little bit of an edge in pitching. And Boone, to me, is not a World Series manager. He might be okay during the season. We'll get in the playoffs. But some of the moves he makes just confuse me. When you're going to put a guy with a bad elbow in to throw, to a guy that's hitting home runs all over the damn place.
Yeah.
And you take Cole out. I know Cole he had 88 pitches. He could have gone. You had another lefty in there that was pretty good. I think his name is Hill, who was good against lefties. And then, you send Stanton home last night. The third base coach did that, but still, it's the coaching all together there. I mean, the guy's slower than I am, and you send him home from third on a ball that's really not hit that deep. There's a lot of bad decisions, Mark, being made by that staff and by Boone. Tonight, I think he's got heel going for him, up for Rookie of the Year. But Cole is your ace, and I know it's only 3 days rest, but if you lose this game, it's over. I don't know why you're not pitching Cole tonight. Let him go. If he can't do it, then bring in Heel. But I'm going to go with my best guy because tonight is over. If you lose, it's done. So I don't understand a lot of the moves he's making, but I'm not the man.
For the Yankees, do you think possibly that in some way, shape, or form, like those guys are kind of like, let's just get this over with now. We're not coming back for 4 games. Like you kind of, that's the other thing we talked about. Sometimes these guys make so much money that the money is really, really the driving force behind them. And wearing a ring on your finger or being inscripted into a cup or a trophy is not really your MO, but you love the dollar signs that you see. I mean, I'm not saying that's true because I don't know that's true. I'm not in that locker room. I don't hang out in that dugout. I don't know. But because money drives professional sports so badly today, and I mean badly, I find it hard to believe that some of these guys are really as impassioned as the guys were back in the day. When you said to me, do you think sports are different? I think back in the day, they wanted to go to the World Series. They wanted to win a championship. They wanted to be in the All-Star game because there was money attached to all that. And their salaries were nominal compared to today. Today, their salaries are astronomical. I heard last night, I'm sure you did too, Mac, the Dodgers are going to go after Sosa. If the Dodgers end up getting Sosa and they have a $350 million payroll or more, you're going to find me not watching very much Major League Baseball. I think the governing council over them, starting with the commissioner, has let it get out of control, and it will be just an astronomical disaster if he ends up with the Dodgers.
I think there's a lot to unpack you just said there. So I do believe some players don't care. I believe the majority of them do. I think, especially ones that haven't been there before. I think Aaron Judge cares a lot. I think Soto cares a lot. I think a lot of the players that haven't been there, and that's why you'll see all stars, all pros go play for the Olympics, right? I mean, they're not making any money. They're doing this because this may be the only time and the only chance they get to do this, and it's something that they'll treasure forever. Now, is it more important to have a World Series than maybe if they decide to put a MLB All-Star together and go play Olympics? I think the World Series means more to them than that. But I still think that there's something to be said about winning that World Series, especially for most of them. Some of them, I think you're right, though. Some of them, I think, are just in it for the money. The Dodgers, there's no doubt in my mind they'll go after Soto. There's no doubt in my mind. They got $1 billion payroll there right now. So Soto would be just adding another thing to it. They got a lot of money out there. But, yeah, listen, I mean, I agree with you the part that the games were better back then because they loved playing the game and they constantly wanted to win. Even in the All-Star games, we saw Rose running over people. We saw high slides. We saw pitchers throwing at batters and Nolan Ryan fighting. So, I mean, this was a rivalry. And what happened to me, Mark, is that interleague play came along, right? So, now it's not as big as a deal. They really don't – they want their stats, but it's not as much. I mean, they waited all year. The only time you saw each other was the World Series and the All-Star game, and they went to win that World All-Star game. And it's a lot different. So, I mean, I agree with most you're saying there, too. So you said you have kids.
I do.
Do they root for the same team you do?
I brainwashed them. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, my son is more down with sports than I am, than my daughters. Although they throw their allegiance behind the Pittsburgh sports. My wife always yelled at me saying, your kids are born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area. They should get to choose the team they want from this area. And I'm like, no, it doesn't happen like that in my world, no, I have two kids that really love sports, played sports. And then I have two kids that were more of, like in a dance, playing piano, things like that. Because I have three girls, 27, 22, 21, and then I have a 15-year-old son.
All right, there you go. And you, what did you, when you were growing up, what sports did you play?
Whatever I could play.
All right.
Honestly, like, you know how you hear about, well, I didn't come in till the street lights went on. That was true in my life. I'm sure it was true in your life.
Yes.
We played by the season. We would in the summer when we would get up, we'd all meet at the Little League field and we would play baseball until noon or so, from 8 or 8:30 till noon. Then we would go home, get some money, and go to the pool. Then come back in the evening. I personally played baseball. I played football. I love doing track and field. I threw the shot put and the discus.
Wow.
I played basketball when I was younger. I just, whatever I could play, I played. As much as I love hockey, we didn't have a rink close to us. So even though I gravitated to the game, I didn't get to play on the ice. So,
okay. Yeah. I was terrible on I tried hockey on ice, and I don't know how they do it. I was better at the street hockey, basketball court hockey kind of thing. It's unbelievable that people can skate that fast, stop on a dime, and make a shot. It's still unbelievable to me. They're incredible athletes, that's for sure. Who influenced you to play sports, if anybody?
It's interesting you asked me that question, because I think both of my parents were huge sports fans. I know we would sit down and watch sports together as a family. When the Steelers were on Sunday, we'd have a meal. We would sit down and watch the Steelers as a family. My mom was super superstitious, though. So if the Steelers would start out doing bad, she'd say, I'm the jinx, and she'd go sit in the kitchen while my dad and I would continue watching. They probably both influenced me in some way, shape, or form. They never took me down any other roads. I didn't play music. I listened to a lot of music, but I didn't play music. I didn't do anything like Boy Scouts or anything like that. It was all sports in my life growing up. It really was. We would even, here, check this out. We would even sit around on Saturday nights when they used to have the big fights on public, like NBC. Yeah. I would sit around with my family and watch the big fights. Muhammad Ali. I'll never forget watching Manila, the Thriller of Manila. I mean, it was big in my house. It really was. My dad, till the day he died, even my mom, they were watching sports. I'd take them when I got older. I'd take them to games, especially hockey games. I would take my parents to, because they loved it just as much as I did. So I would say they were the biggest influence.
That's tremendous. Yeah. My dad, he would take me in the backyard. Of course, the football. I played football for 10 years, ended up coaching for 12. And, we would throw the football around, and then baseball season would come around, and we'd start, throwing the ball back and forth. We had a guy next door that was a good pitcher. He worked with me. And one time I went to my parents got called in, they go to school to visit, the teacher parent conference. And Mrs. Kilty, who was my teacher back then, said, well, John didn't pass in his homework this date, and this date. And my father said, what do you mean? He was going to get all, He said, well, he said he was playing out baseball with you in the backyard. So my father said, all right, that's it. I won't. And she said, no. You do what you're doing. It's important that, that you and your son have that time together and play, because a lot of people don't have that. So that was pretty 100%. Cool. Yeah.
Mac, I've been coaching since I was like 18 or 19 years old. Some sport, some way, somehow, I always coached. Once I stopped playing, or even sometimes when I was playing, I would still go help coach. And I've always believed that playing sports is a universal thing to bring people together, number one. Number two, it teaches you a lot. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you structure. It teaches you motivation, and it teaches you goals. And if you can gather all that while you're playing the game, yes, it's about winning. You get to a certain age. Okay, I've learned the game. It's about winning now. And that drive to win is what pushes you to be a better person too. If you don't have that spirit or that drive to win, then, and I'm talking about not when you're 8 years old. I'm talking about once you start getting to 12 years old, 13, 14, you need to have that competitive spirit, because if you have that competitive spirit in sports, you're going to have that competitive spirit, in my opinion, the rest of your life and everything you do. You're going to want to be the best at your job. You're going to want to have, the best things in your life. So you're going to work hard at it. You're going to want to teach your kids to be the best they can if you have children, so I'd like to use that as a platform to just grow people around me.
Yeah, 100%, Mark. Quick story for you. So my son starts playing midget football, and I'm over there watching. I just got out of service, and I'm over there watching them play, and they lost the game. I think it was 45-0. So I go down, I start talking to the coaches, and I said, I'm watching what they're doing. It makes no sense to me, but that's okay. I want to find out what's going on. I said, when's the last time you guys won here? They said, we're 0 for 7 years, Mark. They hadn't won a game in 7 years. So I volunteered my services to be a defensive coordinator at the time, and then I kind of moved up to the head coach. And what was a shame was on all 3 teams, at the time they had 3 teams, they might have had 15 players per team.
Okay.
I mean, nobody came out. So when I kind of took over the reign, I took over the coaching program for the town, all 4 squads. And I told them, listen, what we're going to do here, and I told the parents, I get it, it's for fun, and I'll make it fun, but it's a lot more fun to win than lose, and lose constantly. At least be competitive. At least have a shot at winning at the end of the game. And what I did with that was we started building a program. We ended up with 160 kids on the 4 towns because the word got around, hey, this is a good team. We're going to come out and play. These teams are good. And from then on, it was great. But I agree with what you're saying. There's a certain time, and I think there's a certain place where all of a sudden winning breeds happiness. Instead of going out and thinking you're a loser, and a lot of these kids felt that way, that they were losers and that the team stunk and it didn't matter whether they practice hard or not, they're not going to win. Once they got that first win or the first 2 wins, wow, did the attitude change. And it is important to me that, as you say, there's a lot of life lessons in sports, and you named them. And I mean, you've got to learn to be a good loser. You got to learn to pick yourself up. You got to learn to be a good winner too, and be humble. And there's a lot of life lessons in sports that you can teach the kids along the way. And I swear to God, Mark, last year when I was out, I had a kid come, and I haven't coached since 2000. And this kid came up and said, hey, Coach McGrath. I'm like, wow. And this kid is a man now, and he still recognized me. It's an incredible feeling. So
it is.
I agree with 100% what you're saying there.
Go ahead. At the end of the day, like, I approach coaching like I approach teaching. I just, you've got to take the time to learn and grow. It's all about buy-in too. And you're not going to get the most out of a group of kids if they don't buy into it. If they're going home and the parent is bashing you as a coach, the kid's not going to come back to you and be like, oh, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, But if the parents support what you're doing, win or lose, the kid is going to continue to grow with you, and you can turn the corner. I've had it on both ends. I had a really talented group of kids. My last head coaching season, it was at Northwest High School in Germantown. I had a really talented group, but there was a lot of turmoil, and and I didn't get support, not necessarily 100% from the kids, but like all the other factors. And at the end of the day, the kids lose out on that. I don't lose out on it because I can go and do it again if I want to.
Of course.
I get a whole new group of people that I can work with and develop, like a teacher. But the kids who are put through that kind of situation, they're the ones who lose out on it. And it makes me feel bad, for them. I've maintained, just like you, Mac, I've maintained relationships from kids that I coached many, many years from the time I was like 18 coaching kids till recently, and now that I don't coach because of my own kid, what I do is I mentor and I give back in different ways now to the athletes at the school.
That's tremendous. I mean, you are in some cases you're a second father. In some cases, they don't have a father, and they look up to you like a father. So it's, I mean, you don't, when you start coaching, you don't realize all this stuff. You're out there to teach what sport you're teaching, as you say, and all of a sudden there becomes an emotional attachment. It's and that's, to me, the relationships with the kids and some of the parents have lasted a lifetime. And that's the great thing about coaching, right? Is developing relationships with certain people and the kids and coaches I coach with, still friends today. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
So Mark, let's get to broadcasting. Before you did the original sports broadcast, before you started podcasting, was there any kind of broadcasting education or experience you had before that?
Mac, when I went to college, all I could think about was playing football, and that was my focus. So after my first year of college, I decided to step away. Where I went to school at IUP, wanted to go in another direction. I didn't pursue it then any further, and I was check it out. I was an accounting major. Can you imagine me behind the desk pushing numbers? That was never going to happen. So I went to our communications department and I said, I want to get into communications. I want to do radio. I want to do TV. And the field was closed. There was that many people in it. Always had a passion for it. My friends always told me I knew way too much about sports, that I needed to share that information. But I just had those conversations forever. So no, I don't have any formal education on it other than having those conversations. But when COVID hit in 2020, my wife looks at me and she says, hey, absolutely positively, you cannot just hang around and do basically nothing during COVID. She said, you got to find something to do. And she knew I always wanted to get into, like doing sports in some way, shape, or form besides coaching, because I had stepped away because of my kids. And I bought myself a mic and I plugged it into a computer and I just started going. I talked to a friend up the street who was doing it. I talked to somebody else who had done it. And I grew that way. I am where I am today. I always heard that most people make it in the podcast world if they can get beyond like 6 episodes. And I'm like 186 into it. I do it by season. I keep it open-ended. And I love doing it. I really do. I mean, if it could be a full-time job, it would be a full-time job.
And it's so, because of COVID, a lot of people decided to do podcasting, right? And it's so competitive out there. And the original shows I had that we kind of combined was TGI Sports with Keith Angle. The Philly Sports Guy had a podcast going. Robert Butler with Sports Scope. He had a podcast, and we kind of teamed up. And I was talking to him. I said, why don't we expand it? Why don't we have a place where a lot of podcasts can get together, have a network where they can cross promote, people watching that podcast and this podcast. Maybe it helps them grow. It adds people go to one place instead of scouring the internet to try to find, looking up sports podcasts. Just go to this place and it's there. And that's how, National Streaming Sports was born, was that we were mainly Northeast. And then we started getting, other shows from out West, and we're up in Seattle. We're up in Green Bay. We got something up in Canada. We're down in Texas now with a few shows, and it's just grown and taken off. And the Roku channel, I decided to try to do that, to have where everybody again could watch show after show like a sports channel. And I went through some rough times. I was fighting cancer. I still have it, by the way, and I'm still fighting it. But I had a reaction to the chemo, and I kind of lost my mind for about a year. I didn't know anybody. It was really weird. And Keith Angle and the Philly sports guy took it over, and I come back, and lo and behold, we've got like 5,000 followers. I'm like, what happened? And I came back to where I am now, and then I started pushing it again, and that's why we are what we are now. But I mean, I always wanted to have a place for podcasters to go to and kind of, again, grow instead of fighting with different other shows and their podcasts. So and it kind of worked out well. In fact, we got the host of one of the better podcasts on our network with us tonight. So it kind of worked out right. So
appreciate that. I feel really honored that you guys picked up our show. We're on, and I believe wholeheartedly in what you're saying. Like everything you just said is so important to me. I've reached out to other networks. We're on a bunch of different networks, and it's important to me. It really, I value it. That is something that I love doing. I would rather listen to some people that are your average Joe talk sports because they know sports. They're in depth with sports. It's what they live for in certain ways. Then listen to the guys, the talking heads on ESPN or, all those other places. Their point of view, yeah, that's great. Whatever. You get to talk to the athlete and hear it. But you know what? I'm giving you a more realistic point of view as a fan and studying the game and studying the players. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you saw this the other day, but Trayvon Diggs went off on a reporter. And I thought, well, I won't tell you exactly what I thought in my head. The Diggs kids are from the Gaithersburg, Germantown area. I coached against Trayvon when I was offensive coordinator at Watkins Mill High School, and we beat those guys. Anyway, long story short, I thought, he's trying to belittle this guy because the guy asked him a question. You don't have to love the question. That's the guy's job, though. Yeah. That's his job. Just like your job is to go out and cover people, his job is to ask you tough questions. And if you don't like what he asks you, you don't have to be an ass to him. Just answer the question in a different way. I'm not interested in answering that question. I don't want to answer that question. Yeah, he was pissed. They lost. I get it. We're all a little bit mad when things don't go the way we want them. But, that's the thing I don't want to hear from an athlete. You do not get put up on a pedestal by me. And that's where I use my platform as a podcaster to tell you exactly how I feel about somebody like that who can't treat other people with respect. So what? He may never play football. Who cares? Yeah. His job is to report football. Tell us what happened. Tell us where you were. Were you out on an island there? Did you think something was going to happen in one direction? It went the other direction? We don't know that. We're not inside your mind, brother. Yeah. So be a little bit nicer. These people are part of the reason that, there are so many people who don't like Barry Bonds because Barry Bonds was never nice to the media. He was never nice to the fans, ever.
It's true.
And he dug that hole, and I used my platform to go ahead and speak my piece. If you don't like it, fine. You don't have to watch or listen to me. But that's why I love podcasting so much.
And, and to piggyback that too, right? We don't really answer to the big networks. We don't answer to the NFL. ESPN has to answer to the NFL. The NFL is giving them their product to get their commercials from. So is CBS and so is NBC. We don't have to answer to them, Mark. We're our own people, and we can be honest. We don't have to. We don't have to smooth things out. We can just say what it really is, and that I think gives us a big advantage on the big networks too.
I think one of the interesting things is there's certain people that I reach out to be a guest on the show, and they'll say, well, it'll cost you X amount of dollars. And I say, you know what? I'm not giving you X amount of dollars because I don't have any I don't monetize. Nobody's picked up my show. I don't have any advertisers. I don't have any sponsors. Although I tried, I don't. And it's not my MO to make money with my show. If I would have those people, I'd upgrade my equipment. I'd go travel to places where I could be at a sporting event and do a podcast from there. I'm not here to make money doing this. I'm here to continue what I love doing.
Right. And don't worry, soon those will be coming too. I guarantee you that. But anyway, let's get to the theme. I love the barbershop theme. And because, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but this is where men went and they hung out and they read the sports and they talk to each other, not just about sports, about everything, but sports a lot. And this is where, everybody's trading back and forth. It's sort of like the original podcast without being on TV or on the internet.
Yep. My guys are pretty awesome. I've had some different guys come and go just because of listen, it's an unpaid job. You better be into it for all you're worth. In fact, one guy and I, we always battle. We fight. And one of my guys said to me today, he said, "You're like brothers." And I said, "Yeah, we are." I said, "We'll get pissed off and say whatever to each other. We won't talk for a week. And then all of a sudden we'll circle the wagons and be talking again, But I mean, those guys, every one of them I know and I know well. One guy sits beside me at work and he's probably pretty instrumental in me actually starting this, because I used to talk to those guys before we hit COVID, and he'd be like, "Man, you just know so much about sports. You should share that knowledge." And then my nephew, who he's like my brother in age, because my sister is, I don't want to say slightly older than me. She's much older than me, but I grew up with him like brothers. He's part of the show, and he's been since the beginning. I mean, we just have fun talking about sports. So whether we're doing it on a camera or on the phone, texting, we text during games all the time. Text during the day. We send each other clips and stuff during the day. I mean, it's nonstop. It's just nonstop. And that's our passion. That's our passion. That's what we love to do. That's how we learn. And to be honest with you, Mac, again, I keep saying to be honest with you, but the world's such a crazy place. The only place you can turn sometimes is to sports for that piece of getaway from all the nuttiness that's going on.
I agree. And I know Chaps is one of the guys on your podcast. Yeah. Right. And I can't remember the other two. I know there's one guy that has TV screens behind him all the time. And the other guy with the glasses, is that your
that's
okay.
My nephew.
Okay, there you go. So I do.
Impressive, Mac.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I watch all the shows. I at least partially watch all the shows if I can, unless I'm doing something. I'm out of the studio or whatever. But I'm always following you guys and always watching. So let's see. Anything else you want to tell us about your hosts or the show before we end the? I know you got to go get your show ready. Anything else you want to give us before I let you go?
Mac, I just want people to give us a shot, take a look at us, listen to us. I think you'll love our content. We try to hit on all the hot topics going on in sports, but we also try to add a little flavor into it. We try to show some personality from our own lives and who we are as people. Ironically, even though Chops lives in Atlanta, I grew up with him in my hometown. My nephew and Rashid live down here by me in Maryland. We always circle back to Pittsburgh for a little bit of Pittsburgh sports talk, but it's not our main thing. Like, that's not our MO. Our MO is to talk hot button issues that are going on. I guarantee we talk about the guy from Chicago who basically lost the game for the Bears. I guarantee you tonight we'll talk about Anthony Richardson and how he tapped himself out. What professional quarterback, Mac, taps himself out? Okay?
So, a coach that allows that does that, Mark. That's what player does that.
But I mean, we'll talk about baseball. I guarantee we talk about that. We talked about Nadal retiring. And this is the thing. Original Sports Podcast is just that. It's an original idea each and every week. I can, in fact, tell you tonight we have somebody coming on from the Dolphins, somebody who's tied in with the Dolphins, and we're going to talk about Tua and his intention to come back. I don't agree with it, but I'm not in his family. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
it's going to be something. It's going to be something, Mark. So, Original Sports Podcast will be up at 7 p.m. on Roku. Where else can they find you?
They can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We will be streaming live on Instagram. I do it just a little bit different, though. You hear me personally. You see me personally on my channel. And then on Thursday, you can watch us anywhere. Like, we're everywhere on Thursday because I've released the audio and the rest of the video on Thursday. We're on TikTok. I stream the stuff out on I put clips up on TikTok of our show, just to give you a little teaser of what we have going on Reels. I mean, I try and push this out there as much as possible. Like I said, just give us a listen. Just take 5 minutes and hear some of these takes. I think you'll enjoy it, just like you enjoyed a bunch of other shows. We're not the best, we're not the greatest, but we're working at it.
Hey, listen, it's a very entertaining show, Mark. And again, it will be on YouTube tonight. I'll get it up there. Also, will be if you go to Roku and you go down to the VODs, the videos on demand, you can see this interview too, along with all the other hosts I've been doing. Mark, thanks for coming. I appreciate your time. Have a great day and have a great